Hey, Ace, how you doing? All right. So, this actual interface is going to look a little bit different than some of my other recordings because I'm using a different platform. Right now I'm using Screencast-O-Matic in conjunction with YouTube because my regular program, it just seems like their servers are really lagging today. I anticipate this is going to be a somewhat lengthy video, so I don't want to lag that load time anymore and maybe lose a video. So I thought I would just do it here. I just thought I would explain that to you so that you aren't questioning the way that this looks different than the other videos. Okay, let's go through your writing and then we'll take a look at the work. Sound good? All right, thanks again for being part of my portfolio video. Absolutely, of course. A lot of great feedback from a lot of different perspectives. I only had my work cut out for me. I took notes during the review so I could revise some of my work based on the critiques. Most of the critiques were on my resume, so I've been spending most of my time on that. And I've attached a new version of how to get your thoughts. I'm not sure exactly what to include from my freelance work experience section, so I just briefly described some of the perspectives I've worked. Other designers' resumes talk about specific projects, but it wasn't sure if a great amount of detail would be. Yeah, that's a really interesting point. What I want you to do is I want you to contact Nicole Dale. First name Nicole, last name Dale, D-A-L-E, and she is the Director of Career Services at RimCAD, and she's excellent. And tell her I sent you. I only met her once, and that was in a meeting. It was actually a webinar where I happened to have been the only viewer. So that was like 2 weeks ago. So I think if you just mentioned that I'm working with you and that I had given you, I had suggested you contact her. You can run your resume by her, and she'll give you some amazing tips. Now, what I'm going to give you is basically what I see and what I see as a graphic design hiring manager. I'm somebody who looks at a lot of resumes, so I'll give you that perspective along with my perspective as a graphic designer. But what you want to do is you kind of want to listen to Nicole for other suggestions. What I would ask you to do is get back with me. Let me know what Nicole said about your resume, and then we'll address it from there. Sound good? I think that's the best way to do it, Ace, because that way we've got different perspectives. We got this perspective of a professional graphic designer who is involved heavily in hiring, and then we have the perspective of a career services professional that's going to take more of a broad look at the resume. So between the two of us tag teaming on it, I think we'll really be able to get some excellent results. Okay, but wasn't sure if okay, where was I? Oh, freelance work, I'll talk about that. I briefly describe some of the projects I've worked. Other designers, I'm trying to keep the resume to one page. Absolutely, you want to do that. And one of the relevant reasons, where the heck did it go? One of the reasons, oh, there it is down here. Sorry. One of the reasons you want to keep it to one page, and I'm going to download that. One of the reasons you want to keep it to one page is because you want to show your ability to be able to isolate a lot of information in one page, right? So that's really super important. Now I'm going to have to move this camera, and I'm going to have to bring this down a little bit. Okay, so right now, let's talk about the freelance section. And I'll come back and talk about design, but I don't want to forget anything. So let's talk about the freelance section. So right now, you can do something here with this freelance section. You can say, okay, I'm saying I'm a freelance designer, but I'm not really seeing proof of that, right? So my recommendation in this regard is and I'm not saying that I'm not saying proof. I know you're a freelance designer. I'm saying somebody who is looking at your resume, and we get a lot of resumes. I get resumes. I can't even tell you how many I get a day. And I look at hundreds of resumes a year, and a lot of them embellish. And you don't ever want to embellish. If it's a fact, it's a fact. It's in there. If it's not, don't add anything that's not true. A lot of students do that. That's why I want to address that in this freelance graphic design capacity. A lot of students indicate, yes, I've been freelancing for several years, but they don't indicate any reason why. And I don't want you to fall in that trap. We can do one. Well, actually, what we can do is this. Is we can say freelance graphic design. Then right under here, you can say recent clients. And then what I would recommend at that point is to say recent clients and make sure that you have samples of that recent freelance design work in your portfolio. Does that make sense? So that way, if there's a question on your resume and somebody says, I noticed that you've been practicing freelance graphic design for a long time. Can you talk a little bit about that? And you can say, well, I can do a little bit better than that. I have some examples of freelance work that are in my portfolio. You see how that would help? So let's go back. Okay, let's go back and let me see. We stopped off right here. Trying to keep the resume on one page. My business cards would mention I should have a more standard card due to cost and convenience of handling. It should be mentioned that I got 100 for 46 bucks, including shipping, which I think is incredibly reasonable. It's on 3x3 inch square, so it still fits very comfortably in a trifold wall. And I think the images and concepts give impression that the card is much bigger. It's okay. It's okay. Now a 2 by 3.5 inch business card is something that fits into my wall. It also fits into what I carry, a business card holder. And the example that I used in your review was that when I go to an AIGA meeting or when I go to an art show or anything, I make sure I take a stack of business cards with me. Conversely, I expect to come home with you got it, a stack of business cards. So I use a little holder just to keep them all together, right? And the 3x3 won't fit in that holder. So what I would subsequently do then is I would take it and I would stick it in my pocket, and it would be separated from the group, might be separated permanently. I don't know. The point I'm trying to make is that if you get a standard business card, it's going to be a lot easier to circulate. I know that yours isn't very big, but again, I think that I would definitely recommend 2 different versions of the business card. $46, it seems reasonable right now, but if you can imagine that if you go to an AIGA meeting, it's quite possible you'll circulate 100 business cards at the meeting. I know I have gone back out to my car to get more business cards, so food for thought there, right? So so $46 per 100 could get quite costly. With travel, I think the images concept give the impression the card is much bigger. Okay, but that's okay. That's okay. And remember, your business card doesn't have to be boring. It can be compelling, but most of the time, a business card, once I get my business cards, I come home, I transfer that information onto my computer, and I typically get rid of the business card. I don't save them. I don't have a Rolodex with business cards. I have it all on my computer. Okay, get thoughts on the printed portfolio I created. On this print portfolio I created, I'm still having some issues getting it printed by the way I want because the Office Max is useless and I don't have a lot of options around my side of town for custom print jobs. I don't know if I agree that Office Max is useless. I'll talk about that in a second. What I did get printed is assembled, I think is really fun and interesting concept for a physical portfolio, ties a business card portfolio and ID together. I created a video to show how it's set up. Posted it here on YouTube for the purpose of seeing my full print portfolio. You can be downloaded or viewed from the About page of my website. The file is too big for email. Is this? Oh, okay. Okay, the About page on your website. Link me out to your website because I don't have that link off the top of my. It's buried in my. Wait a second. It's in here. Portfolio site. And then I think you said, where's the print portfolio? Wait, I'm sorry. Together, I created a video show. I was posting downloaded from my About page on my website. Okay, so let's go to your About page and download my PDF portfolio. Okay, so this is your print portfolio. Okay, I think we're going to have to look at this separately because is this it? Oh, I see. So these are the different sections. Got it. Okay. Now, one thing, here's that piece again. I'm not sure if you want to use that. Yeah, I think this is too heavy on the whole the record thing. I think it's too heavy on that. You've got these partitioned out. You've got album covers here, album covers, album covers. You got more album covers here. Then you have separating your book work. More, I'm guessing, yep, there it is, another album cover. I think you're a little heavy on the album cover concept here. I really do. And the reason, what I would see if I looked at this is what I would say. I would say this is an excellent designer, but it seems like this designer is really, really concentrating on this kind of album design. So I'm not real sure if this would be scrutinized the way it should be. So I'm not real sure, but I will say this. Let's take a look at this. Let's revisit this as soon as we're done looking at the website and all that stuff, because now we're starting to take a look at multiple pieces and the confusion level is beginning to increase. So let's look at that in a future time when we're done going through the rest of your work. Does that sound good? I'm not blowing it off at all, Ace. I want to concentrate on one. You know how this can get really, really complex quickly. So let's keep this partitioned, so to speak. Okay. One thing I want to talk about printing is a lot of times you can print it yourself. And I printed but back in the day, I used Office Max and Kinko's. And the reason is because I didn't want to have it professionally printed, of course, because I couldn't afford that. And I didn't want to print it at home on my little dinky $100 printer because it gets really lousy results, right? Plus, I can't print oversized. So I think my portfolio book was 18, was it 11 by 18 or something like that, 12 by 18? At any rate, I printed it myself and I assembled it myself, which means I had to print each page on 11 by, or what was it, 11 by 17. I can't remember exactly but I printed each page on an oversized sheet, full color. I assembled my book. It wasn't a saddle stitch, so I didn't have to impose the pages, but I did have to assemble the pages so that the back side of the page, so as we turn the page, the layout was, I guess I did have to impose the pages, but I did it manually so I could print a duplex, meaning two sides. I had set the whole thing up myself, so all I had to do is go into Office Max and say, this is 11 by 17 or 18 by 24 or whatever it was, oversized sheet. I need a full color print on this type of paper, and I didn't let them crop it. I put crop marks on there myself. I made sure the front and the back lined up. Then I went to a paper trimmer, trimmed it myself, put it in the sleeve, and assembled it in the book, which was a spiral bound book, not a saddle stitch, right? So you can see I can change pages and swap them out. So that's something. Now, one thing I do want to mention is when the portfolio book, really think about this, Ace, before you go putting a lot of money into your portfolio book. And I think my portfolio book total cost, this was 20 some years ago, was over $400. I got a beautiful stainless steel case. It's a beautiful portfolio. I will say that, but all supplies, everything, printing, all costs, it was about $400. So that's considerable, right? Now, the reason I'm saying this is because you have to kind of take a look, say, how often am I going to use, this is 2020, how often am I going to use a physical portfolio? Now, back in the day, we needed one for sure because most of the jobs we applied for were in the same geographic location. Now, in this wonderful digital age, I'm applying for jobs that are halfway across the country, sometimes in other countries. Do you see what I'm saying? And so I shouldn't say applying for jobs. I should say bidding for jobs, right? So the electronic portfolio is the way to go in that regard. Okay. Overall, for the review, I felt pretty good about it, although I was certainly a little nerve-wracking. Not at all. I don't think you didn't come off like that at all. You came across very comfortable. There's no problem there. I would recommend that if you have any kind of video interviews, I would recommend that your little guy, your dog, gosh, get him something that we can keep him quiet. I've got the same problem. You've probably heard my talks. So I kind of have to do something with those guys if I have some kind of a video interview. Another thing I might recommend is to try to find a screen or some sort of sheet, a black backdrop or something that you can put over your screen to prevent the distractions. Make sure your camera is up. Okay, so it's so you're not looking up, the viewer's not looking up at you, but looking directly across, just like my camera is right now. I've got it elevated on a stand about this high. Watch your lighting. Test your camera. Make sure the lighting is good. Okay. I have spent much time in the stage in front of random people over the years. Yeah, it's different though, isn't it? It's different being on the stage than it is actually talking to folks. I think it is totally. It definitely helps for sure. I mean, the level of comfort being in front of the public is enhanced being a musician for sure. We all know that. I mean, I wouldn't trade that for the world. But I hope it didn't come off as lost or nervous. I felt you didn't at all, not at all. I can't thank you enough for help, guys. It's just, you know, as I said, reach out to Jim, say, hey, you know, dude, help me out, and it helped out quite a bit. That's all I ask in return. That's it. I mean, it's my pleasure to help you out, Ace, for sure, and I'll continue doing this until you're ready to roll. Also, what is the name of that illustration? Oh, that is we were talking about. It's called Procreate, and we were talking about Procreate on an iPad, and my rig. My dream rig is basically iPad Pro with Procreate. So that can also run Photoshop on an iPad Pro too. I haven't really played with it, but I know Procreate works wonderfully on iPad. But that's the setup, and it's fantastic. So what you can do is, like, imagine this. Imagine taking your iPad to the park. You don't have to take your pencils, your sketch pad, your equipment, your kneaded erasers. You just take your iPad. You know, I sit outside in the back sometimes, and I just lay down. And I'm just like, I can lay down on my back and sketch. It's so cool. You're going to love it. All right, here's what we're going to do. I am going to end this video right now at 17 minutes. I'm going to add another video here. I'll respond to this, and then I'll shoot you an email with another video with the critique for the pieces. All right. So I just don't want this to end up being a half-an-hour video. All right, cool. Thanks, man. Let me know if you have any questions.